indeed online. So, well, I'll just get started. I believe we are on, let's see, get my Srimad Bhagavatam here. We are on Canto 2, Chapter 6, Text 4. So I will begin with the blessings for the reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tatu jayamudirayet. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Nara, Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta Prayesh Babadeshru Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yutama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So today we are beginning in Canto 2, Chapter 6, Text 4. Targatram vastu saranam sobagasya cha bhajanam vag asya sparsa vayoscha sarva medasya chaivahi. Translation. His bodily surface is the breeding ground for the active principles of everything and for all kinds of auspicious opportunities. His skin, like the moving air, is the generating center for all kinds of sense of touch and is the place for performing all kinds of sacrifice. And the very short purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The air is the moving agent of all the planets, and as such, the generating centers for promotion to the deserving planets. The sacrifices are his bodily service and are naturally the origin of all auspicious opportunities. So I'm going to go on and read text 5 as well, so we can discuss the two texts at once, because both of them have very short purports. So text 5. Roman Yuda Bija Jatinam Yairva Yajnashtu Sambritaha Kesha Shrimashru Nakan Yasya Shila Lohabra Vidutam. The hairs on his body are the cause of all vegetation, particularly of those trees which are required as ingredients for sacrifice. The hairs on his head and face are reservoirs for the clouds, and his nails are the breeding ground of electricity, stones, and iron ores. Purport. The polished nails of the Lord generate electricity, and the clouds rest on the hairs of his head. One can therefore collect all sorts of necessities of life from the person of the Lord, and therefore the Vedas affirm that everything that is produced is caused by the Lord. The Lord is the supreme cause of all causes. Okay, so now going back and just repeating quickly verses 4 and 5 in English. Verse 4. His bodily surface is the breeding ground for the active principles of everything and for all kinds of auspicious opportunities. His skin, like the moving air, is the generating center for all kinds of sense of touch and is the place for performing all kinds of sacrifice. And text 5. The hairs on his body are the cause of all vegetation, particularly of those trees which are required as ingredients for sacrifice. The hairs on his head and face are reservoirs for the clouds, and his nails are the breeding ground of electricity, stones, and iron ores. So, as you can see, in this chapter, we're talking about, well, about the Virat Rupa, or the universal form of the Lord, and we're getting more of this imagery about the bodily aspects. Um, his body surface being the breeding ground for all active principles. It's just that we can see that everything exists because of the Lord. So by picturing the Lord, we can attempt to have an understanding of this, that all things are happening because of the Lord himself. And the moving air is like this life force that is going through everything, and is making everything happen. So we can see the bodily surface, and relate to the moving air, his skin, and then the moving air as the what generates all of the activity in the universe. And as we go on, then we also see that the hairs are the cause of all vegetation. So now we're taking the image of the Lord, and we're bringing it down into things that we can understand here on the surface of the planet where we live. We can see that the vegetation is related to the Lord, exists because of the Lord, and that the hairs on his head and face are the clouds, are the reservoirs of the clouds, and even his nails being the breeding ground of electricity. It makes me think of the image maybe of Narasimhadev with those powerful nails, and which activity takes place, in the story, the most famous story, this defensive activity against demons. But so we can have these images to help us understand the activity of the Lord on the earth, or how all the activity on the earth is because of the Lord, and this bodily imagery that we can imagine in our minds, that we can see in our consciousness. Um, there's not too much more to say about that, but so now I open it up for, well, first Mother Levanga, who has been through this before and maybe has some other ideas from even future verses to bring into this interpretation. And so let's see if Mother Levanga can speak to us now.
Um, well, it's a lot of what we've been talking about previously, but it's just giving us new imagery for how to picture the Lord. So it says here that in the verse 4, in this purport, that the generating centers for promotion to the deserving planets, the sacrifice, specifically the sacrifices, are his bodily surface and are naturally the origin of all auspicious opportunities. So Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that he's the he's the recipient, um, the person who actually receives all sacrifices. And even when the demigods do it, they're doing it basically on his behalf. And then chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita says work has to be done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. And so what really stuck out to me is because really sacrifice is what we need in this world to actually, if you want to be happy materially or spiritually, you have to do yajna, you have to do sacrifice. And in this age, the ultimate sacrifice is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. But even just material. things, sacrifices were done to bring the rains. And I know at one Kirtan festival there had been a drought, and then people started chanting the holy name, and it started to rain. The rain finally came. So it gives us some imagery because we hear a lot about sacrifices, and it gives us an imagery to see how that this is coming from the Supreme Personality Godhead. And the reason why I chose sacrifice to talk about is because we can, like you said, that it's bringing it down to like what we can experience on Earth, and because we're in a spiritual movement, we do a lot of sacrifice. We're chanting the holy name, we're offering our food. So much of what we do is based on sacrifice. So this helps us, gives us some imagery of how this is coming from Krishna. But then also, I also like the point that you mentioned that the polished nails of the Lord generate electricity. So it's interesting that like electricity is mentioned here in the Bhagavatam, and so what was I thinking about this? Oh yeah, and so whenever the light comes back on here, because a lot of times the electricity goes off a lot here, and then it comes back on.
Yeah.
I can think of Krishna. So I really appreciate how this is bringing things down to stuff that we can experience, and really helping us just to kind of see Krishna everywhere and within everything, like the pure devotee does. Um, and even just imagining how the air is moving all the planets. This Earth, I think it's spinning really, really fast. I can't remember how many miles it's going. I learned in science class, but I don't remember anymore. And that's all going by Krishna, even though we don't feel it. This whole arrangement is going on, and we don't even think about it most of the time. But Krishna is doing a lot, and so uh, one can actually really experience Krishna everywhere if they just take the time to be observant. So these are short purports, but that was just my off the top of my head realization based on what you were talking
Okay. Thank you. How about you, Bhaktina Amy? Would you like to add a few words to that?
Yes.
about. Okay.
Sorry, Mataji Lavang, I couldn't hear you. What did
I
you say?
forgot to I forgot to mute. Somebody was talking to
Ah,
me.
okay. That's okay. So basically, I'm just flabbergasted that the purports are so short when speaking about the form of the Lord. And I'm just left with so many questions, but I guess that's the point, right? So that we can ask questions. But I like that it says his bodily surface is the breeding ground for the active principles of everything and for all kinds of auspicious opportunities. So it makes me think of always, in again, my reference, I know at some point I'll reference the Gita more because I will know more the Gita than the Bible, but since I know the Bible more, or it just comes to me. Um, it says like in scripture, it says that the Lord in himself is enough, that we don't need anything else. All we need is the Lord. So it says here, it's like the Shastra is confirming the fact that his bodily surface is the breeding ground for the active principles of everything and for all kinds of auspicious opportunities. His skin, like the moving air, is the generating center for all kinds of sense of touch and is the place for performing all kinds of sacrifice. So whenever we're performing a sacrifice for the Lord is like we're on his skin, um like the moving air. I don't know, like according to this this purport also, and to this Srimad Bhagavatam chapter 2, I mean Canto 2, 6, text 4. And then on text 5, it speaks of that the hair on his body are the cause of all vegetation, like the trees that are required as ingredients for sacrifice, and the hairs on his head and face are the reservoirs for the clouds, and his nails are the breeding ground of electricity, stones, and iron ores. And then in the purport, it says that the Lord is the supreme cause of all causes. So everything that is produced is caused by the Lord. And this reminds me, because yesterday I was tutoring my sixth grade student, and he was trying to be funny. He was trying to be like, a little bit slick and saying, but why is this like that? And I would answer him, and then, but why, but why? And what is the cause of that? And and we would get to the point where I would say God, and he would say, and where does God live? And I would say the spiritual world. And where's the spiritual world? And how did it get there? And who made it? And I said, God. And he said, and who made God? And I said, God is the supreme cause of all causes. Like, there's nobody that created him. He was
Can we
already
ask
there.
these same questions at this stage of the game?
Yeah, yes. So
Mhm,
it makes me feel kind of like that sixth grader, like
mhm.
a child trying to figure out, like, where did it all start? Where did a God start? And God is everything, and how it is enough for us to have just God. And since we're living in this material world and we have a very limited view, it's so poor, because sometimes you're just like focused on solving material things, and that's why it's a beautiful practice to always think of the Lord in all times. Like, even if you're breathing, in every breath, it sounds a little bit romantic, but it would be nice to actually be able to do that. In every breath you would think of the Lord, because the Lord is the one that's breathing for us, as read in the first verses of this canto. And then now here it speaks more of like he's the cause of all causes, and his body is responsible for everything. And it's like, so in him there's everything, so you don't need anything, you just need God. And if you say it like that, sometimes if you're not like aware of all these things that are in the Shastra, you would think like, oh, well, all you need is God, like something abstract, because we don't have that vision, or we don't have that, knowledge. But if you read the Shastra, then the Shastra explains to you, although I'm not very satisfied because their purports are so short, but I will try
Well,
to ask
the next
Gurudev
purport is a bit longer, and you could do us the favor of reading it since Mother Devanga hasn't been able to continue
to,
in the
yes.
class.
Oh, okay.
So,
Thank you.
yes, you can read text 6.
Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, Text 6. Bahavoloka palanam prayashaha kshema karmanam. Translation. The Lord's arms are the productive fields for the great demigods and other leaders of the living entities who protect the general mass. Purport. This important verse of Srimad Bhagavatam is corroborated and nicely explained in the Bhagavad Gita 10, 41, 42, chapter 10, verse 41 and 42, as follows. Yayad vibhutimat satvam Srimad urjitam evava tatat evava gachatvam mama tejomsha sambhavam atava bahunaitena kim gyatena tarvarjuna vishtabhyaham idam krishnam ekam shena stito jagat There are many powerful kings, leaders, learned scholars, scientists, artists, engineers, inventors, excavators, archaeologists, industrialists, politicians, economists, business magnates, and many more powerful deities or demigods like Brahma, Shiva, Indra, Chandra, Surya, Varuna, and Marut, who are all protecting the interest of the universal affairs of maintenance in different positions, and all of them are different powerful parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna is the father of all living entities, who are placed in different high and low positions according to their desires or aspirations. Some of them, as particularly mentioned above, are specifically endowed with powers by the will of the Lord. A sane person must know for certain that a living being, however powerful he may be, is neither absolute nor independent. All living beings must accept the origin of their specific power as mentioned in this verse. And if they act accordingly, then simply by discharging their respective occupational duties, they can achieve the highest perfection of life, namely eternal life, complete knowledge, and inexhaustible blessings. As long as the powerful men of the Lord do not accept the origin of their respective powers, namely the personality of Godhead, the actions of Maya illusion will continue to act. The actions of Maya are such that a powerful person, misled by the illusory material energy, wrongly accepts himself as all in all and does not develop God consciousness. As such, the false sense of egoism, namely myself and mine, has become overly prominent in the world, and there is a hard struggle for existence in human society. The intelligent class of men, therefore, must admit the Lord as the ultimate source of all energies and thus pay tribute to the Lord for his good blessings. Simply by accepting the Lord as the supreme proprietor of everything, since he is actually so, one can achieve the highest perfection of life. Whatever a person may be in the estimation of the social order of things, if a person tries to reciprocate a feeling of love towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is satisfied with the blessings of the Lord, he will at once feel the highest peace of mind for which he is hankering life after life. Peace of mind, or in other words, the healthy state of mind, can be achieved only when the mind is situated in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The parts and parcels of the Lord are endowed with specific powers for rendering service unto the Lord, just as a big business magnate's sons are empowered with specific powers of administration. The obedient son of the Father never goes against the will of the Father and therefore passes life very peacefully in concurrence with the head of the family, the Father. Similarly, the Lord being the Father, all living beings should fully and satisfactorily discharge the duty and will of the Father as faithful sons. This very mentality will at once bring peace and prosperity to human society. So, again, the translation: the Lord's arms are the productive fields for the great demigods and other leaders of the living entities who protect the general mass. Wow, that was okay. That was a little bit longer.
Yes, it was.
It was a little bit longer, and I was more satisfied with it. And also because it speaks of also by Maya, and it explains how the person that has not developed God consciousness identifies themselves with the false sense of egoism. Like everybody says, myself and mine, or I. And it brings me to think about, for example, there are some people that don't use the word I, that don't use the first person, that refer to themselves in the third person. Would that be like the correct way of referring to oneself if one is thinking of the Lord? Um, because when you say me, mine, myself, I, is the ego, the false ego, and then, I think in the past, maybe kings and queens used to refer to themselves as a third person.
Well, I don't know what to tell you on that. I know there are a lot of people nowadays who like to refer to themselves as they and them instead of he and she. But as far as that not being self-identification, I think they are identifying very much with their ego, by saying those things. So I'm not sure what to say about that. It
I
could be
was
a
I
good
was just
question.
thinking about that. That makes also sense. I mean, it now it's become a little bit more confusing with people who refer to themselves as the pronouns they, their, or he, she. I don't know. But what I meant, like for example, I think kings and queens used to refer to themselves as we are pleased with your, I don't know, with you with your way of, like if the king or queen was referring to somebody, they would say we instead of me, or I am pleased instead of, which is strange because kings and queens could be egotistical sometimes.
Yeah, well, when they said we, were they including God or were they just saying, you know,
I
we,
don't know. Like I'm
we
gonna research.
majestic people? I mean,
I'm gonna
yeah.
research on that because now I'm very curious about whether the fact that they used the like we, our, instead of saying mine, or stuff like that, to refer to themselves, what was the reason behind it? I think it was to like distance themselves from themselves, like for not be egotistical. Is there anything else that calls your attention?
Well, somewhere in the middle of the purport, it says, whatever a person may be in the estimation of the social order of things, if a person tries to reciprocate a feeling of love towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is satisfied with the blessings of the Lord, he will at once feel the highest peace of mind for which he is hankering life after life. In other words, instead of trying to get, satisfaction from just pleasing ourselves or our ego or satisfying what it is that we think that we need, if we give the effort towards satisfying the Lord with our full heart, then the Lord will indeed reciprocate, and will reciprocate to the same degree that we are reaching out to Him. So, and this is also, mentioned in other places. So, and then there, of course, the whole idea about the demigods who are taking care of, who are protecting the general mass, like taking care of all the little details. But, so that we don't forget that above the demigods, there is the supreme personality of Godhead. So, some people will like to reach out to demigods in their worship or in their thought processes or whatever. But above the demigods, there is the supreme Lord who controls what the demigods are doing. So, this is like a hierarchy for us to understand. And we're down here at the very bottom, but if we reach out directly to the Lord will reciprocate in kind, So, and so then as we get further, here Prabhupada emphasizes that we must be like the obedient children who don't go against the will of the Father. And this is the only way really to get peace, because once we start to become rebellious or to fight against the nature of things, we lose that feeling of peace and serenity. This can, according to Prabhupada, this can only be achieved through actually following the orders, that have come down through the parampara to us where we are right now. Um, So I don't know what else to add to this. Would you like to continue discussing it?
Yes, we can read the next text if you would like.
Okay, we'll
You
go
can read
forward.
it.
We have a little time to go forward. One more text.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, Canto 2, Chapter 6, Text 7. Vikramo burbuvashvascha cheshmasya saranasya cha sarva kama varasyapi harish charana ashparam. Translation. Thus, the forward steps of the Lord are the shelter for the upper, lower, and heavenly planets, as well as for all that we need. His lotus feet serve as protection from all kinds of fear. So, the purport by Srila Prabhupada. For absolute protection from all sorts of fear, as well as for all our needs of life, we must take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, not only in this planet, but also in all the upper, lower, and heavenly planets. This absolute dependence on the lotus feet of the Lord is called pure devotional service, and it is directly hinted at within this passage. No one should have any kind of doubt in this matter, nor should one be inclined to seek the help of any other demigods, because all of them are dependent on him only. Everyone, except the Lord himself, is dependent on the mercy of the Lord. Even the all-pervading supersoul is also dependent on the supreme aspect of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So, the translation again. Thus, the forward steps of the Lord are the shelter for the upper, lower, and heavenly planets, as well as for all that we need. His lotus feet serve as protection from all kinds of fear. Ah, so this is very interesting because one of my favorite questions, one of the questions that I made to Guru Dev, several years ago, which is included in one of the books, which you'll probably see in a post within the next couple of days, is about what to do about fear. Why, because we're afraid of so many things. And here it becomes evident that the only thing we can do is surrender to the Lord, serve those lotus feet, and then that is the only way to obtain the protection from all kinds of fear. So if we have this image of the Lord's lotus feet and see him stepping forward, and that these steps are actually the shelter for all of the planets, the upper planets, lower planets, heavenly planets, that everything is, as we've already pointed out, everything is because of the Lord, and the Lord himself supplies all of the protection that we need through just being there and walking around. And all we need to do is recognize this and serve, his lotus feet, which I guess is why it's important always when we serve our guru that we have a picture that includes the lotus feet of our guru as well. If you go to the temple to serve the deities and you put a picture of your guru up while you're serving him, it can't be just the head or the top of the body. It needs to be the whole body, including his lotus feet. So, would you like to comment on this, Amy?
Well, thank you for that information because I mean, how would I know otherwise if you didn't mention that? That's a beautiful detail that is very important for whenever, if ever I get the chance to be so fortunate as to serve the deities. Um, I shall need a picture of Guru Maharaj, a full body picture.
Yes, I've been trying to get some of those, and maybe we already have a few of them online from some of the classes that he's given here, like at Govinda's Veggie Garden, for instance. There may be a picture that you can grab and print out.
Okay, like online on the website?
Yeah, yeah, everything's on the
Yeah, I'm
website.
gonna check because I also have a picture of him with the white clothing from like a grihasta clothing, but now he's not no longer.
Right.
Now
So you
he's
need
wearing
more
orange.
recent
So
pictures.
yes,
Mhm.
it's important
Yeah,
that I have a updated version and that I have a full body version also so that I can when I if ever and hopefully I do get to serve the deities that I'm able to do it with the correct image of my guru. Thank you so much for that information.
sure.
And it's just like I said, like it just brings in me this childlike amazement of the fact that when you say that the Lord is enough, it's not just a sentence, it's a absolute reality. The Lord is everything and the Lord is enough. You don't need anything else but the Lord. And if you have the Lord, then you have everything you need. And as a person in a material body in the material world, we might forget that link sometimes when we're having issues or troubles or whatever that we need to solve material because of our own karma. But then the Lord, um, when you think of that, the Lord in that being with the Lord or loving the Lord or just taking refuge at his lotus feet is enough. It does bring you a lot of peace. And just going back to that thought is obviously amazing just to be at peace whenever you need. It's a very comforting thought. Also the Maha Mantra, obviously, to chant it, um, it's definitely calming, but this thought is also a beautiful thought that knowing that the Lord provides for everything that we need and that all we have to worry about is doing our devotional service with love.
Absolutely. And this is that's a very good point to make. Um, I think we can leave text 8, which is also a kind of longer text for our next Srimad Bhagavatam class in 2 weeks, when hopefully Mother Devanga will be able to connect and will be able to lead the class. In the meantime, the announcement is that next week, which would be August 4th, I have to look at, next Tuesday would be August 4th, I believe. That day will be questions and answers with Manunatha Maharaja. So it's time for you and I and anyone else who is listening and to think of what questions we want to ask and to send them along to him with, of course, with instructions that they should be answered in the class in English on next Tuesday. Otherwise, he'll answer them right away, and and then we'll be out of questions by next week. So now is the time to guard the questions. And actually, from the last few classes, some topics have come up that we have wanted further explanation, and maybe if we didn't jot them down, we might have to listen to the classes again to remember what the questions
I
were.
think so. I think I was gonna do that. I was also gonna go back to the start of the chapter and
Hmm.
like read again everything and then just like watch the classes to remember which because I remember specific things of that I was like wanting to ask. So I will definitely go back to it and make these questions, jot them down for Guru Maharaj.
Okay, that will be great. And well, I don't know how long the pictures are up in the WhatsApp. Maybe they're up for 90 days. I don't know when, how, or 3 weeks or something maybe only. So I don't know if all the pictures will be there, but you can also look through for some of the pictures. Recently he gave a class in Old San Juan, and you can certainly see his lotus feet in that picture. But there are more things to be considered than just whether or not his feet are in the picture. So, so when one
Thank
has to
you so
look
much.
at the different pictures and consider, you know. And so, having said that, I just want to thank our Guru Dev, Manunatha Maharaj, for this opportunity that he allows us to discuss the Srimad Bhagavatam, and for the upcoming question and answer session, and say, pues, Manunatha Maharaj ki jai, and Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And thank you for attending, and see you next time.
Thank you,
Haribol.
everyone.